Welcome boys and girls, Christine here with a discussion about what I think is the best single-player campaign for Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires for the High Elves, and that is Eltharion the Grim, aka Batman. Now, there's of course a poll that I did. A lot of people would vote otherwise as opposed to Eltharion. They would vote Tyrion, and there's a choice that's missing there, and that's Imric, who I'm sure for a significant number of people would be a very popular choice. Imric, however, he's got a lot of power, undeniably so. He's got those dragons. He can use them. He can use them very well. But he's kind of like an asshole, really, because that's kind of Imric's entire thing in the lore. He is an asshole, and he's also constantly pursuing Miao Ying. That's a different thing. And Miao Ying is like, hell no, really, on that subject. Because that's the thing with people like Imric. They think they can get someone like Miao Ying. They're going to be very wrong. But let's focus on just the aspect of Eltharion the Grim, because we'll get into that whole love story there. When we talk about Eltharion the Grim's campaign, he is isolated from all the other High Elves, even from Imric. And he doesn't have a great choice. He can either stay where he is, or he can go back home. Now, it's never a good situation in a campaign to spend multiple turns going back home. You can give up Everest and get Brave New World, but that's also not ideal. The location that he starts in is also not great. Now, for Eltharion, that's, you know, something you deal with. You just recruit a bunch of archers, you handle things, but there are a lot of improvements that should have happened in this campaign. It's also kind of frustrating where you start, because it would just be much better to start in Stormhenge right here, as opposed to next to a port, because by starting next to this particular settlement over here, fighting that battle, having a field battle, having the settlement battle, or just having a settlement battle capping off in a manual battle over here by Galbaraz, would make this campaign significantly better. Of course, you know, there's always Scarbrand to take into consideration, but I think Scarbrand diplomacy would actually suit that. So just shift those starting positions a bit, and creative assembly would be fine. Now, the problem with Tower of Rest, because this is a problem. Livestock pens should allow you to recruit Eltharion Reavers. No discussion about that. But also the issue for Eltharion is his entire campaign is built around the idea that he's out there in the Battlelands fighting Greenskins. But he really does need to hold control of Tower of Rest. The reason he needs to have control of Tower of Rest is because of the Spire Guard, Faith Bearers, and all the structures. This is something where Creative Assembly could take inspiration from Aislinn if they ever want to improve Eltharion. And Eltharion is kind of important in Lords of the End Times because he was the last one who actually tried to stop Nagash's return. He and his army were the last ones. And he failed. He failed because he didn't have support from anyone else, but yeah, that was the consequences. Nagash came back in End Times because Eltharion was the only one trying to do so. Obviously, in a DLC perspective, Nagash will return, but it would be nice to be able to stop him as Eltharion. Like, if you're not playing Nagash, if you don't start a campaign as Nagash, you can play Eltharion and try and stop his return. Forget Grom the Paunch. Grom the Paunch is a gnat that doesn't matter in any way, shape, or form. It's really Eltharion's true battle is always going to be, and once Lords of the End Times comes out, to try and stop Nagash's return. Because that is an important thing. That's how the campaign is. There are things I've talked about the High Elves. I'll link them at the end of this video. No problem whatsoever. The High Elf rework video, you know, for anyone that's interested in how Creative Assembly could or should rework the High Elves, like hero capacity, hero recruitment tiers, all that kind of stuff. But with Eltharion specifically, one of the big problems is they leaned a bit too much in the Batman fantasy scenario. Like, for instance, oh, you can imprison people, you can capture them, but you can only capture them for fighting manual battles, which ruins this campaign from a multiplayer standpoint. That is not ideal. Then you also have bugs that happen with the prison itself. Then the prison itself is a needlessly annoying thing. The Warden supply system needs to be overhauled, and Eltharion just needs more Warden supplies. Kind of like some other people could use more Warden supplies in their real lives. I would say that the best thing Creative Assembly could do with Eltharion is you can keep Tower of Rest if you want to, but if you want to give it up, you keep a kind of special outpost over here, and you are able to recruit all of these special units, especially as it gets upgraded by Tyrion. And Trilimia, if you give it up to Tyrion, that gets also given to Tyrion. The armies here get removed, all that. That would be a choice, or they just don't exist in the first place. That's the decision you could make, because having to manage armies on multiple fronts. But again, it depends on the decisions, and it's always good to give players a choice, not try and force them down one particular path. That is always a very important discussion point. Like, obviously, Tyrion does not give a flying fuck about the Greenskins over here, because Tyrion just obliterates them very easily. Maybe it would be good if you're playing Eltharion that if you do decide to give up Tor of Rest to Tyrion, he just automatically declares war against the Greenskins and he obliterates them. There's no way that Greenskin faction is taking Lothern. 0% chance. Minus infinite chance, if you will, on any difficulty. I mean, it could happen, but yeah, those Greenskins should be wiped out. Or maybe they just should cease to exist and Tyrion gets an extra army to deal with that. Like, if you give up Tor of Rest, you're giving up control of Ulthuan, so that means Tyrion needs an extra benefit in that situation. Now, Eltharion is a loner by nature, and he is perfectly fine being a loner. I mean, he gets along well with Superman, Cavill, but he could certainly use a Wonder Woman in his life as well. And maybe it takes him a long time to realize that point, or maybe he figures, it's never going to work out. I mean, that's probably the lore reason why Eltharion ended up single. And he ended up suffering for being single because, again, he failed to stop Nagash, and he suffered immensely as a result of that, even in Age of Sigmar. You know, with Batman, I'm reminded of what Green Lantern once told Batman in Justice League. I'm reminded what something, it's like, what's going on between you and Diana? Because that's Wonder Woman's name. Batman was like, come on, you know, they would try and destroy her, and Wonder Woman just goes in there, slams the table, and laughs at the very fucking notion that they'd even scratch her. And of course, it takes a long time for Batman to fucking realize that. I mean, the Catwoman thing is bullshit. Like, I understand some people don't like that when we talk about Justice League. It's like, oh, she should be with Steve Trevor. Yeah, no, she should be with Batman. And I think that's one of the great things that Justice League did. I mean, also that whole story of Hawkgirl and Green Lantern was also a great one. It's like Hawkgirl really did not did hesitate for a long time to be with Green Lantern because she knew what was happening. But ultimately, it's just for the best certain things happen as opposed to them not happening, or else, you know, you can look at Justice League if you want to see the consequences when people fuck around too much and live in ambiguity. And that's the problem with someone like Eltharion. He loves the ambiguity a bit too much. And Wonder Woman doesn't, but she also respects the fact that Batman loves the ambiguity. So it's like, you know, Hawkgirl, it's kind of like, if you want to make an analogy, Hawkgirl loved the ambiguity with Green Lantern. Batman loved the ambiguity with Wonder Woman. It just kind of wasn't going to work out, right? That's the problem. Maybe the Hawkgirl situation was, maybe Hawkgirl and Batman could have been the real best fit. But that's, you know, a fantasy scenario. It's like Wonder Woman, Diana, and Batman, aka Eltharion, would be a great affair. The Warden, you know, the Warden who just doesn't give a flying fuck about what people want and shows up anyway and does his job regardless. That's all I had to say. Christine here signing out. Stay tuned for more. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and I'll see you on the next one.